good intro tune. I don't think we subscribe to that. Menagerie. The medley. Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday night. You guys got me yesterday. Had a nice little night, Matt. I locked in 100% Jokic because I wasn't going to get my DraftKings lineups in on time. That worked out well. Nice little nuke there with Josh Giddey. Unfortunately, the field ended up catching me with about 20%, but there was a lot of moving parts last night, a lot of moving parts tonight, even though there are only 5 games. We have 1 game at 7, 2 at 8, and 2 at 8:30. So this is almost a Belman slate, very compressed. We should see all 5 games in action at once here.
Yeah, I love that. Should be a fun Saturday night slate. News all over the place. So got to watch out for that. Typical Saturday night NBA.
Yeah, it's just here we go. We're gonna go game by game because of that news and because everything's tightly compressed. We'll get a news dump here at 6:30. But the key things we need to know: Brooklyn resting Cam Thomas and Watford tonight because tanking. Noah Clowney is out. D'Angelo Russell is out, but Nick Claxton is available. Maybe we see Day'Ron Sharpe get a little bit more run. Memphis suddenly popped up a whole bunch of people on the injury report this afternoon, so someone is probably going to sit. They are favored by 7.5 in San Antonio. This is a back-to-back. They lost a heartbreaker last night. They had Ja Morant get an and one to put them ahead with about 14 seconds left, and then OG Anunoby basically hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to win in Memphis for the New York Knicks. But we have Desmond Bane, sore hip. We've got Ja Morant, sore shoulder. I'm guessing one of those guys is going to sit. Luke Kennard, sore back. Vince Williams, I don't expect him to play. They've been easing him back into things, but who knows at this point. And then who else popped up? Brandon Clark cut his lip, but then Gigi Jackson, who had an eye abrasion, he's off the injury report. So, you win some, you lose some here. For San Antonio, of course, Wemby's out. Biyombo was signed to the rest of the season contract, but Charles Bassey is out. We have the late games, PJ Washington, questionable with an ankle issue. So he missed the last game. We could see him out again. Of course, Pat Connaughton is out, but fortunately, Giannis and Lillard off the injury report. We've got Jimmy Butler questionable. If Greg was here, he would tell you that Jimmy is a wimp and is due to miss a game at this point and still won't fight Greg because he's scared. I'm not expecting Jimmy to play, but Paul George is available. I think I got everything there, and I screwed up just at the end. A little mishmash, a little creative player of my own there. A little Keontae George, Kyle George, Paul George, whatever. It's not a show without me.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just par for the course, right?
Indeed. Oh, we're going to bring up golf here. Okay. Perfect.
No,
that's a hole in one.
That's about all the golf I got for you. And I will say, the Memphis news, I mean, they're playing San Antonio, who doesn't look good right now. Memphis off a back-to-back. A week ago, Memphis's injury report was blank. For seemingly the first time in like years, and now a week later, they've got 10 guys on it. So, again, just typical NBA. I expect at least a couple guys to be out for Memphis, and the trickle-down effect is real because if you get like just Ja out, everyone else becomes really good plays, and then all of a sudden you get Ja and Bane or Ja and Kennard. So, definitely got to pay attention to that.
Right. And what that's going to allow us to do, or what we could see here as well, is Scottie Pippen Jr. coming into prominence. And he had kind of fallen out of the rotation. And that's mostly a factor of Vince Williams probably not playing on the back-to-back as they're easing him into things. Fun note on Memphis, and then we'll circle back to the beginning of the slate. They've lost 3 of their last 8. That has allowed Houston and the Lakers to kind of catch them. Nobody's getting OKC, but there are 4 teams battling for the other 3 home court advantage slots. So Memphis might want to start focusing on winning. And think about this. This is gonna surprise you because it caught me off guard as well. Did you know that if Memphis finishes second this year, which they're probably in line to, it will be the third time in the last 4 seasons they have finished second in the Western Conference.
That's pretty wild.
How crazy is that? I was looking that up this morning. I'm like, wait, last year was the only year they truly sucked, and it was an abomination last year. But I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of weird. So
I knew they were really good the year before that. So yeah, that is weird. Man, the West is full of good teams. I'm just not sure how many great teams there are outside of OKC, Denver. There's some other really good teams in the West. I'm interested to see the Lakers and Golden State, two teams I have on the outside looking in right now.
yeah, yeah. 3 years ago, they were 51 and 31, and then the year after the pandemic, they were 56 and 26.
That was all
My, how
because of
quickly we
Ja
forgot.
too.
Yeah, it's all Jaw. And
Well,
remember
not
when he was like,
anymore.
when he would get hurt or be out, and then all of a sudden their defense would get better. That
Right,
whole
Tyus Jones.
Oh, good times. Oh, good times. And oh, chat, relax. I know you're angry already, but we got 52 minutes to cover these 5 games. Again, only one is going off in the first hour, but let's turn our attention to that. We have Brooklyn at Detroit. As we mentioned, Claxton available. Killian Hayes looking like an interesting option as a functional point guard. Hard to believe I think he's like 23. He's been in the league like 5 years now. He came in as a 19-year-old. Way back in the day, spent his first 4 years there with Detroit, kind of fell out of the league, was with the G League here for the Nets, but they brought him back up, obviously, without D'Angelo Russell. What do you like from the Brooklyn side tonight in Detroit? Detroit favored by 12.5. We don't get to say that very often either in the last 5 years.
No, we haven't been at least. Maybe we'll get to say it more going forward. Not a ton I like from Brooklyn. 5 game slate, so certainly you're not really crossing off any teams. But as far as a priority perspective goes, like I think Killian Hayes is the closest thing to that at 4,300, projects for over 25 fantasy points. My problem with just locking him in is all of a sudden you get Scottie Pippen, other good value plays, namely Pippen, that could just be a better play. I still think if you're making one lineup right now, you're strongly considering, at the very least, plugging Hayes in. Um, Cam Johnson looks good at 6,100. I don't think I want to allocate the roster spot and salary early, but he does look okay. Same with Keon Johnson. Nick Claxton looks fine. Really, for me, it's going to be Killian, and that doesn't feel good, but he's still so cheap. Good spot. Should get run regardless of how the game goes. So I think he's the top play. How do you see it?
More or less in the same situation there. It's a good call out there and a good reminder for me for Scottie Pippen Jr. because although I'll have to look at what his salary is on Yahoo, because and I know you guys are like, EMac and his Yahoo, but I've locked in Killian Hayes there because he's $15 or $16. He's one of the better point per dollar plays. So I like that in that one. I see in chat they're asking, hey, how many players are we playing from this first game? So Brooklyn has on DraftKings has 3 players that are 20% or higher, with Hayes being 34% as the highest, Cam Johnson at 27, and Keon Johnson at 19. Those were the 3 that Matt said he was interested in. After that, it gets a little messy just because it's hard to know who gets what minutes because they've been playing a lot of mix and match with quite a few players. If we turn our attention to this same matchup on FanDuel here, we see that it's Hayes at 26%. Day'Ron Sharpe pops up as a center, $51,000, 18%. And then Cam Johnson at 18, and then Dennis Schroeder. Oh, wait. This is the double revenge game. The reverse remember me. It's Schroeder, formerly one of his 19 teams he played for, formerly of Brooklyn, and then of course Killian Hayes, formerly of Detroit here. This is not firing me up for anything. I like Hayes because he's cheap. That's about it. But yeah, not too many coming from this first game. I would say 1.5 players per lineup on average would be my guess.
And if you want to play no one, I don't think that's crazy. Like I think you're giving up some good value with Killian Hayes, but I also don't think at 4,300 he's going to break the slate. So I don't think you're crazy to cross off the first game just because it's not that great of a game anyways, and we're waiting for news. But just from a value perspective, Hayes is going to look good regardless. It's just he might not look as good as he does right now.
Sure. And so on FanDuel, the value plays from this game, you've got Daron Sharp, who's the third highest, and Killian Hayes, who is the fourth. But after that, there's really nobody of interest. And I don't know that I'd want to put Daron Sharp in there because he's not going to start. If we look at FanDuel, or probably DraftKings, Killian Hayes is the third best play on the slate from a point per dollar perspective. But that's really the only guy who pops up. Turning our attention over there to the Detroit side, Jalen Duren, kind of interesting. You've got, what's his name? Cade Cunningham. I say, what's his name? He's having a phenomenal year. Leveled up go ahead.
The last Saturday show we did, he went absolutely nuclear in the first half. He had like 55 fantasy points, and when I was watching it, and I was like, man, this has got to be one of the best first halves ever. And since that day, it was just a week ago, there have been two similar first halves, one better. Giddey had a first half that was similar, and then Tatum last night, first half was even better than Cade's last Saturday. Cade had like 55 fantasy points in the first half. He was amazing. Trae Young did the nutmeg move on him, threw the ball in between his legs, and after that, he just went insane.
Kind of like the nutmeg. Always fun there. Cunningham is coming in with the second highest median fantasy point projection on DraftKings, trailing Giannis Antetokounmpo. And on FanDuel, let's see, he is also second. He's about 10 points behind Giannis on both sides there. So Cunningham, kind of the main guy. Duren, always in play for a 15-15 kind of upside game. But despite all of the many moving parts, Brooklyn still remains a decent rebounding team, which is semi-confounding there. But Duren is solid himself. But those are really the only guys that I'm seeing, even on the 5-game slate, that I have appeal. Anybody else in this first game?
Not really. I mean, Cunningham always going to be in play because he's really good. It's just the salary, the position. It's hard to prioritize him here with how this slate is shaping out, but he's never going to be like a bad play. I mean, it's Cade Cunningham, always in play.
All right, we're gonna just kind of gloss over game 2 here because we really need more information from Memphis. So I suspect we will have something actionable, hopefully at the 6:30 news release here. But key things to remember for the Spurs side: they're going 10, 11 deep every day now, and they're not giving anybody aside from De'Aaron Fox anything close to 30 minutes on the regular. And that makes trusting anybody on this team besides him kind of folly, because we know they want to give Jeremy Sohan some chances at center, but he's not getting consistent minutes. You have Steven Castle, who has like literally been all over the place. Castle, let's see. In his last 5 games, 26, 13, 22, 12, and 30 minutes for Castle. No rhyme or reason. Who is it? Malachi, God, Branham? Is that who's there deep on the bench?
Yeah, Malachi Branham. Is he still on that squad?
Yes, and he got playing time 2 of the last 5 games, if I remember. It was like, wait, when did he come back from the dead? So
the Ohio State legend.
Yeah, it's tough to trust anybody from San Antonio. And Fox is not really someone to actually trust. Now, on the Memphis side, their defense has been middling of the pack over the last 10 games, but we don't know who's going to be in or out. So that'll give us moving parts. So let's put a pin in that. But I'll turn you loose on our next game here. Sacramento at Houston. Most relevant players available in this one. What do you like from our Sacramento side here?
This is another one. We're skipping over the game with, a ton to like about it, especially the Memphis side. But all of a sudden, the more guys you get out,
we're coming back. We're going to feature probably 10 minutes of our last 30. So.
This is a prelude for people understand why I don't like much from the game we're talking about,
yes,
which is Sacramento and Houston. Certainly don't love a ton from Sacramento. I mean, they just got too many guys that are like not far away from each other on the pecking order. Like they're all like similarly talented enough where you never know whose night it's going to be between Levine, DeRozan, Monk, Sabonis. Sabonis is surely the guy you want to get to the most, but he's the most expensive and only center eligible. So I like Sabonis. He's coming in at 4% owned, 4.5% owned, only has a 3% chance of being optimal. So kind of tells you where we're at with Sacramento. No one over a 10% chance of being optimal on Sacramento. So for one lineup, I don't think I'm going to get to anything on Sacramento. From Houston, the guy that really stands out, and he always looks good, is going to be Şengün. Uh, it's hard to get to him a lot because of just how deep the center position is. And I kind of feel the same tonight, but also there aren't a ton of spend ups, and he looks like one of the better spend ups. Again, we'll have the Memphis news, so we'll know if things break right there and you get a lot of value. I think Şengün's going to be a very good play. We've got good centers on this slate, but nothing crazy. There's no Jokic, obviously. So it's Şengün for me. That's like about it from this game. Like Jalen Green, sure. And I guess the more I'm talking it out, I like Şengün, but I don't mind the Sabonis pivot at you know, however much less owned he's going to be. So it's just the two centers, and that's it for me.
No, and that makes sense because with everybody seemingly healthy at this point, and Fred VanVleet not on the injury report, likely to come back after I think it's been 9 or 10 games. At this point, just makes things real crowded because you've got Jabari
Yeah,
Smith
good call
Jr.
there.
back. Yeah, Jabari Smith Jr.'s back as well. So all of a sudden, Houston's looking deep. This is when like Jayshawn Tate and some of the end of the bench guys, Cam Whitmore's fallen out of the rotation, etc. So it's and then Tari Eason, if it has a harder path to get to minutes, etc., etc. It just things are a little crowded there at the moment. Now it's Saturday, something wonky could happen, right? That we preach this, right? It's the NBA, but that's kind of what we're looking at for this game. Okay. Why are people texting me? MLB trade offers. The league I'm in with T McBee. Tino, there is no off season.
You're speaking my love language, man.
Yeah, these guys. This is the dynasty league. We have 4 different drafts. There's 5 kinds of contracts you sign people to. The rule pages are 9 pages long, and then every year there's some addendums to it because these guys find loopholes. They let me join in because I'm the only sicko willing enough to attempt to have a good team here on this league. But yeah, this is, it's even for me, it's like, what do I have to do? So I'll be chatting with old T McBee tomorrow or Monday for my refresher crash course.
It's fun when you're like in the middle of it, but if you get lost for like a day or two and it becomes so like, why am I getting all these texts? I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like, oh dear God. And they're like, well, how trade me these picks from 3 years from now? It's like, I don't even know what I'm protecting this year. And it's so convoluted. In any event, back to today's world. You know what? I'm going to give everybody a gift here. Producer Mike, you know what time it is. It's time for the link join. So
just call him Santa. Just call him Mr. Santa Claus.
Exactly.
Giving out gifts.
Giving out gifts here, dropping the link in chat. This is to get you, because we've added 2 more sites to the link join promotion. We have Fantistics, that is part of the fold now, and Chalkboard. If you sign up through these links, through our links, you'll get 1 month of Stokastic Premium single sport package. You can use it for NBA, you can use it for MLB, 1 month for each of these sites. And I'm guessing most of you have not signed up yet for Chalkboard. Chalkboard is a pick'em site. It is mobile device only. And the one really cool thing about it is they're offering discounts all the time on their player props or their player projections. So you want to sign up for that if you're in one of the states that is not enlightened enough to give you sports wagering. But that's a fun site to play on. And then Fantistics is available in Fantistics. That's an old baseball. Now I'm talking baseball. It was a baseball site from a gazillion years ago. Fanatics is a peer-to-peer sports wagering site, which allows it to get around a lot of rules, which is kind of interesting. But that gives you a nice little bonus there as well. Not only do you get the sign-in bonuses for each of these sites, but you get the Stochastic love of the Sims package. All right, let's get back to basketball. We will try not to sell anything more. We don't want to keep the lights on for you guys and keep offering free shows. So you better hit the like button. I need a lot of likes to not do another read here. Going on to game number, I know because CEO Tom is watching. He's always watching. Let's hit Golden State and Philadelphia. So Jimmy Butler, the intriguing option here. If he is out, that gives additional shot attempts to Podziemski and Moses Moody. So those guys have, or Moody in particular, has come into more prominence. Remember when it seemed no matter who was out and what was happening, Steve Kerr didn't want to play him? Somehow he's out of that doghouse now. Of course, Kuminga, Jonathan Kuminga is a couple games away from returning to action to make things real crowded. We've seen Trace Jackson Davis fall out of the rotation here, but Steph Curry coming off a phenomenal game. What was it, like 57 NBA points that he scored. He was definitely in the zone there. But if Butler is out, and I kind of think he's going to be out tonight, that is going to help everybody else who's available. What is your read on the Dubs?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I kind of expect Butler to sit, but I don't know. And I'm also not sure their rotation. Moody did not start the second half last game. Then went with Quentin Post instead. Now, maybe it was just because of a Steph going nuts that they wanted a little more spacing. I don't know. But yeah, if Butler sits, everyone else on Golden State becomes more viable. I mean, all of a sudden, you have to look at it like they traded Wiggins, et cetera, for Butler. Those guys won't be in, obviously, because they're gone. And then if Butler's out, it opens up Curry. It opens up a little more for Draymond. You mentioned the Podziemskis and Moody's of the world. I think those guys are in play. I don't love them, though. Philly stinks, so I like teams against Philly. I don't think that's a question. Just not sure how much I like the Golden State guys compared to other spots on the slate. If Butler's out, do you think those guys are like locks or just very good plays? Because I just think they're very good plays. I don't think they're locks or anything like that.
I think everybody's a very good play tonight. There's just not as many locks that I'm seeing, right? And last night, I locked in Jokic, and there was a few other players. Tyus Jones comes to mind that was just in a preponderance of my lineups. I don't really see that today. Someone will get up to around 60%, 50, 60%, but I don't think there's going to be anybody that's, oh my God,
it might be the only guy it could be is like the Memphis guys, like Pippen.
If Jaw's out and Bane's in, if Jaw and Bane are out, then now we're looking at Pippen. Jaren Jackson Jr. comes into the mix.
Yeah.
So somewhere there, when that little unveiling happens here, which is hopefully we're going to get somebody ruled out here in the next half hour, at the half hour news drop here. But that would be really the only one, because otherwise it's this is a fun slate because you can't say that's where I'm going. So if you have strong feelings, tonight's the night to get above the field, because it's not going to take a lot to do it. Here. What do we? These guys make me feel like I'm going to lose. No. You're here. That's a leg up on the field still. Using the tools, and we gave you multiple ways to get in for free and for $1 and all of these things over the last week. That should give you confidence to go into battle here, into the DFS battle. So
messed up also, though. Like, if you feel like we're going to make you lose, then don't watch. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to comment that. That's how I feel.
Oh, I was reading it as we're putting out too many, not that we're giving bad news that they're going to lose. It's we may be poking holes in some of the players that they're interested in. Two sides to every coin. That's how I'm reading it. So
okay, yeah, I like you're the glass half full, man. I'm with you.
Life's too short to be angry. Come on. On the Philly side here, Tyrese Maxey still looking good. You've got Kelly Oubre Jr., Mr. DGAF himself, having a few moments. We have Postal P is what I'm referring to him now, because it feels like he's just put a big old stamp on this season.
He has looked good recently, though.
He did, but still fell under his PRA that I recommended
last game.
Games ago. I think it was 2 games ago.
Okay, only because he sat for like the whole second half because they were getting rolled. But last game in New York, he was really impressive. I mean, finally showed glimpses of the Paul George of old. We probably won't get much more of that, but wanted to call it out.
Yeah. After those guys, here's another team where it's like, well, not really going anywhere quickly, going nowhere fast. One of my college guys in my fraternity. That was the name of their band, Nowhere Fast. The stories
Love
you should
that.
tell about that, but we'll save those for another time. And then let's wrap up our final game here, and then we can start answering questions. We can talk about positions here. We'll see what comes in at the 6:30 news drop. Our final game is well, there's two 8:30 games, but we've got Milwaukee at Dallas. So this one now has some players that we want to start talking about. Until we get to the Memphis news. So Kyrie Irving over his last 6 games is averaging almost 39 minutes and 24 field goal attempts with a 47.5% conversion rate. He is making 40% on 9 3-pointers a game. This works out to almost 31 points, 6.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 stocks. He has 350 fantasy point games and a 60 fantasy point game in this stretch. He is a good play. At some point, he's going to get here's somebody that has been minding his P's and Q's for about the last 18 months. If anybody's should be angry about the change of teammates, it's him. But it's
He's
sort
about
of
to
like,
get paid though.
yeah. So he's gonna get his, as they say. So he's an interesting play. The front court, we don't know what's up with PJ Washington. Anthony Davis and Derek Lively are each going to be out for another 3 weeks. Daniel Gafford out for the season. Dwight Powell, what is he, 33, 32, 33? He's going to play 14 to 16 minutes. But Moses Brown signed a 10-day contract. He got a start in the last game. But I was reading some articles this morning trying to figure out if they could sign him to another 10-day contract. It turns out that they can't. He may end up with the Knicks soon enough with speculation. But for now, Moses Brown is with Dallas. Hopefully, even if PJ Washington is in, hopefully he showed enough to get the start over Kessler Edwards, who has no business even as the nominal 5 out there. There's just nobody left in this front court. So Irving, Moses Brown, Marshall, and if Washington plays, you've got to think he's healthy enough to go at this point. So there's some interesting options. Milwaukee, okay, Giannis putting up some big numbers. Lillard could be Dame time at any time, but he's not. He's making his threes, but not anything else since the All-Star break. You also have Kyle Kuzma, yet to reach 40 fantasy points, even without Bobby Portis. But he is starting to look good from a fantasy point per dollar rating. So we've got, 3 good plays, maybe 4 on each side here. Brook Lopez has actually been outperforming on a fantasy point per dollar basis Kyle Kuzma. Here's some interesting options because you've got 2 teams. Dallas is trying to not go quietly into the night, and Milwaukee needs to start shaping up here because the Eastern Conference is getting a little tougher for their part of the standings. So I like this game a lot. What do you like from this game?
Yeah, a lot to like on this game, like slate considered, in my opinion. Maybe not as much as the Memphis game, but Giannis looks like the best play on the slate in my eyes. He's not playing full minutes yet, but he's playing enough where he's too cheap at 10-8. So with the value we're going to have, he's just a lot easier for me to get to than Cade. He projects better. I like the position eligibility better. He's more expensive, but I don't think that's going to be a big issue. I think you could play them both, but I think Giannis is pretty clearly the top spend up on the slate from the Milwaukee side. I like Dame, price under 9K, not getting a ton of ownership. I think he is a good pivot off of a guy like Maxey. I think Kyrie is a good pivot off of a guy like Maxey. Both of them look good. This game has a lot of star potential, and the price tags aren't too high. Like, usually if you get Dallas and Milwaukee, you're getting like Giannis over 11K, Luka or Anthony Davis really expensive, Kyrie really expensive, Dame really expensive. You don't really have that tonight. You've got Dame under 9, Giannis under 11. Obviously, no big star for Dallas in. So you got Kyrie, expensive, but he's the star. And then you look down from Dallas and you got PJ Washington, who I've liked a lot every time he's played. If he's in tonight, I expect full go. 7,200, good tag. I like him quite a bit here. Projects for 35 fantasy points, not getting too much ownership. Moses Brown, if he's starting, I think you got to take a long look at him again. Interesting what you mentioned about the 10-day contract. He is more pricey now. He's 5K. So, I don't think he's a lock upon all locks, but right now, at least he's projected to be pretty under-owned. So, yeah, Dallas and Milwaukee is a game that I can get totally on board with. not overly interested in Kuzma, although I do think it's the type of slate where he's more in play. Like you don't have
Mhm.
as much opportunity cost. You might just get pigeonholed into a salary range like that where there aren't that many guys. So if he's just like the best 6K forward, that might be all you need. So yeah, I like this game quite a bit.
And that's where, like, Kuzma's like, oh, if this was an 8-game slate, we wouldn't be talking about him. We kind of crossed out most of Detroit, most of Brooklyn, most of
Right.
Houston, most of
I think
Sacramento, definitely all of, except for Fox of San Antonio. It's like, we're running out of teams here.
I do think Kuzma looks like guys like Cam Johnson. I think Cam Johnson right now looks slightly better, but he's also eating up an early roster spot. So I don't
Mhm.
love Kuzma, but at least if you play him right now, you're getting that late exposure. You can swap. So I don't know.
All right. I dropped a fun new feature into chat here. This is free. This is the Stokastic starting lineup page for NBA. So you can see we're putting in the players when lineups are confirmed. We've got players who are questionable that we expect to start flagged. And then there's some game notes under each of the games. So that's something that is helpful for you guys to see there. So you can go ahead and click on that and check it out. We can see that, like for Dallas here, it's talking about PJ Washington is questionable. It says Kessler Edwards or Najee Marshall would be the most likely to kind of start in his place. Gary Trent talked about questionable. What would happen if he's out? Does AJ Green get a little boost? What's going on with Jimmy Butler? Do they tweak Draymond's starting spot? Is it Healed? Is it Santos? Is it Gary Payton the second? Who knows, right? But that's something that is kind of helpful. And then this also lets you know what we're thinking about for our projections, and how those things are being accounted for there. So definitely keep that in mind as a nice visual resource to check out. Plus, it's got the over-unders and the spreads, or the over-unders, the game totals and the spreads in there. All right. We got 2 players ruled out for Memphis, but they're not really earth-shattering. This isn't even really the appetizer, right? So
Nah, they don't mean much. The only thing they mean is like if you get like the other three also out, Memphis is going to have like 7 guys. That's all
yeah,
it means. Because as of right now, like doesn't really change the complexion of the slate at all.
yeah. So Vince Williams ruled out. We're not expecting him to play on back-to-backs. No surprise there. He's kind of capped at around 20 minutes. This was the expectation. Brandon Clark popped up on the injury report. He has a cut lip or a lip laceration. Well, lip laceration is a cut lip. I didn't read in to see what happened, or if it's also, like he got elbowed in the face or something like that, which, maybe a fat lip, a loose tooth, et cetera, et cetera. But he is out. That's about 20 minutes as well. But it's hard to know who it's going to go to. We'd like to think that Santi Aldama gets a little more secure at reaching 27, 28 minutes. We'd like to think that Jaren Jackson Jr. gets more secure into the mid 30s. But we don't know for sure because the big moving pieces are going to be Bane and Morant for sure. But this sort of maybe helps us feel a little more comfort with the front court players, with Clark not stealing minutes, or not stealing, just siphoning them away. What do you think Kennard's going to be out? He I think is the most likely to sit as well, because remember he's gone through stretches where he's been banged up with this happened in Detroit. This happened with the Clippers where he was just like hurt randomly with
Yeah,
his back or his elbow or whatever it was, right? Just different moving body joints is the word I'm looking.
I feel like they treat Morant with such kid gloves. I'd be surprised if he plays, but Bane was also questionable going into yesterday. It's tough because these guys all played yesterday. So it's like they're obviously not seriously injured, but you just don't know. Just don't know.
Maybe their ego after losing last night. That's got hurt. Let's look at the minutes real quick here, see if anything else we can suss out. Jaren Jackson Jr. played 34. Zach Edey played 24. That's kind of about the norm for those guys. We can hope for a couple extra minutes for Jackson. I think Edey's probably about where he's going to be. Jalen Wells, he started but played just 22 minutes. He could see a little bit of a trickle down effect with Williams out. Scottie Pippen Jr. played only 12 minutes off the bench. He should probably get closer to 17, 18, with Williams out significantly more, depending on Morant, Kennard, and Bane. So, he's got 3 paths to additional minutes here, or 3 people blocking him if all those guys are healthy. Marvin Bagley's with Memphis. Somehow I didn't. Oh, was that part of the
I chuckled when I saw that too a couple weeks ago or whatever.
Yeah, that's just one. I was
like,
oh, is that
like what?
I wondered because it's like the Wizards keep playing Rashawn Holmes and George out of position and Champagny and with when Alexander Sarr is out. So there you go. Marvin Bagley still allergic to basketball, but there we are.
God, he was so good in college too.
Wasn't he like the 3rd overall pick or something?
Yeah, he was taken ahead of Luka.
Oh, that's right. That was the whole Sacramento. And was that still with Vlade? Vlade was like an advisor at that point, wasn't he? He wasn't the GM.
I thought he took Bagley.
Oh God, did he? Because I thought Vlade somehow had connections to Luka as well.
Yeah, and like he didn't take Luka because he didn't believe he took Mark. Hold on. No, that's when they took Fox. I'm thinking of the wrong year.
Okay. All right. In any event. Oh, Ayton went first in that draft. Chuckle.
Oh, Bagley went second over Luka. Yeah,
okay.
I was right.
Okay. I see Tango Hotel. Now this game's going on right now, so it doesn't matter. But it says Charlotte rolling out Malachi Flynn. What's a Malachi Flynn? He is, I'm assuming, Elfrid Payton. They did not pick him up they did not convert him to a full season contract, is my guess. So the Malachi Flynn is the next retread point guard that's out there, available for 10-day contracts. So that's probably why you're seeing him. Oh, without knowing Memphis, do you have a nuke of the night?
Very tough without knowing Memphis, because I think like majority of the best plays are from that game. But I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here. Like, I just don't think he's owned enough for this slate under 11K in what should be a competitive game. Give me all the Giannis. I can't imagine making one lineup without Giannis right now. He's the one guy.
I think Giannis is a nice call out. I think Kyrie Irving is another interesting option. I kind of like Santi Aldama, but I'm going to go deep off the board here. Deep off the board. I think it's going to be Dame time tonight. So I will go with Damian Lillard. Feels a little dodgy there. Why do I like Damian Lillard?
Yeah, so also, and since we've been on the show, Matt Butler tweeted at us and said Steve Kerr said he went with Post to start the second half to put Draymond on Paolo because Banchero was just going nuts in the first half. I mean, that game makes sense. I mean, Banchero was doing whatever he wanted, so putting Draymond on him makes sense. I would expect that to not be the case tonight. So Moody back in the lineup. Much better matchup for all of Golden State against Philly than Orlando. Steph just did what Steph does and had a transcendent game, but it wasn't a good matchup for anyone on Golden State. Tonight it is.
Yeah.
What are you giggling about over there?
Chat, the real AD says, hey, just for this weekend, can we get an alternate video where the nuke falls into Lindquist's butt cheeks?
That's something.
That's the special OnlyFans content with Greg and that's a different kind of video.
That's the OnlyFans content with Puppet Lindquist too, who still has a sore throat, I heard.
Yes, some sort of menage there. They might not even play. Why does it say that? I thought he was off the end.
He's probable.
Yeah. Just take a peek here. Keon Johnson is starting for the Nets. They are going with Killian Hayes, Keon, Zaire Williams, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton. The Pistons going with mostly the huge there. Cade Cunningham, Tim Hardaway Jr., Asar Thompson, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. Let's see, because the inevitable question is, how do you feel about Killian Hayes if he's not starting? My answer is not too worried per se.
Worry about what? What was the worry?
If Killian Hayes is not starting.
He is starting. The lineup came out.
Oh, is he? Did I get the wrong lineup in there? Oh God, I glossed right over that. I said, oh, I know why. Because then I went back and looked at this. Then I look at the Pistons. I'm like, oh shit, Hayes isn't. Well, next thing, Dennis Schroeder's not starting either. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Oh, you were looking at the Pistons for Killian?
Yes.
Yeah, I get that. I'd do that too.
God, there was some player I went to look. I can't even remember who it was today. And I was like, why are they not? How are they? I went to ESPN and I went to Basketball. So I'm like, how are they not on the roster page? What's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, they're not on that team anymore. Oops. Never get old, Matt. Never get old. It's just.
I wish you had told me that 15 years ago.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, Kuzma not on the Wizards anymore. It's stuff like that. Yeah, I always wondered with my dad. It's like, how can you not remember that stuff, Dad? And it's like
I was watching. Yeah, I know. I was watching a highlight of like the highlight video of. You're not a Cavs fan, but I'm sure you'll remember this when LeBron had 25 straight in OT against the Pistons in the playoffs when it was to bring the series back to Cleveland, the year they went to the finals. It was like his coming out party. He had 25 straight in the fourth quarter in OT. And I remember where I was like watching that live, however long ago that was. And man, it just is crazy how time flies.
The one that always gets me is I remember the Kobe Bryant game. Wasn't that against? No, I'm going to say
when he had 81
Toronto. Yeah, when he had, because I remember it
was against Toronto.
I have visions of like ESPN cutting into. I know I was living on the West Coast.
Yeah, I have visions of that too.
And seeing that, or Malice in the Palace.
Yes, that's another one that I was thinking about when we talk about things like this. I remember where I was for that and still see highlights of that. And what a crazy when that went down. Because I was like kind of before social media also.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just like, what is happening? And they're throwing beer. And then
it was
an Artest
fight,
that went and
Jermaine O'Neal.
Yeah. Oh God. Anytime you can, and somehow, and we'll get back to basketball, real basketball, current day basketball. Anytime you can harken back to the Jailblazers in some form or fashion with the Jermaine O'Neal. And
I just remember Jermaine O'Neal like in the Malice in the Palace squaring up with a fan on the court. Like that will never happen again.
Oh, interesting. Okay, can we replay yes, let's take a peek at the values. I was trying to buy time for projections update here. So we've got 15 minutes until lock. 6 minutes ago. See, look, tell a story, and all of a sudden we get the things that we are looking for. So just real quick here, we can talk about DraftKings and FanDuel. I will start running my sims. So on FanDuel, Paul George popped up to the second most popular player on FanDuel. Did not expect that. Santi Aldama is looking pretty solid on FanDuel now. Damian Lillard is looking decent. Desmond Bane, we have him as a placeholder. He and Ja are kind of looking solid, but the plays you want to focus on would be Kyrie, Giannis, Killian Hayes. Anybody else? And probably Moses Brown. That would be your DraftKings, probably your FanDuel plays. On DraftKings, your super cheapie is Zach Edey. I have a hard time seeing him getting more than 26 minutes, even with more players being out. Doesn't that feel like they kind of just don't want to overdo it with him?
Yeah, I agree.
GG Jackson is 3,300, depending on who is out.
Yeah, the thing I like about GG also is like, we talk about this a lot. He's a guy that he's a producer when he's on the floor. So like if he gets minutes, we talk about this a lot. Again, like you want guys that, if they're going to get the minutes, they're most likely going to produce. A lot of times value this cheap. You got to pray for minutes, and then you also got to pray for them producing. With GG, it's almost like half the battles won already. Not that he's guaranteed to produce, but his talent level is much higher than most players in that price range It's just he usually doesn't get minutes.
You know what I just clicked on? The MLB simulation tool. That's mentally I'm thinking about baseball. Darn these league trade tweets coming to me on this show. That should not be allowed. Who's the leprechaun? Any beef stew love? It gets hard. You need him to get blocks and steals because
Wow.
he's a guy that doesn't get a ton of minutes. Not
So
excited about him. The Debo Samuel.
I, yeah, the Debo Samuel. So yeah, I feel like we had to call that out, even though it's a basketball show. But also PJ Washington's in, so
Okay.
you stole half my thunder, but not all of it.
Sorry. I'm still okay with Moses Brown. They just don't have enough front court players. And this is kind of, I don't think they're going to have him on the next contract. Some about them being over the second apron, but not having enough salary cap to offer him a veterans minimum or something where New York somehow does, even though they're over the same, some convoluted thing about second aprons. But I still like Moses Brown. But he's getting a little expensive at 4,800. Otani nuke of the night. There you go. Really? Was it only a fifth round pick for Debo?
Yeah, I mean he's washed though. Like
he looked.
I like the move for Washington. Don't get me
I
wrong,
think it's fair.
because
Yeah.
like they're close enough. Jaden Daniels is good enough where maybe he can do some things with Debo that they weren't doing in San Francisco. But I'm not shocked that it's like all he went for. Picks are like gold in the NFL, and a guy like Debo Samuel, clearly isn't what he used to be. Now back to
And you
NBA,
got to pay him
PJ.
$22 million.
Yeah, like no thanks there. PJ Washington will be limited to around 25 to 30 minutes Saturday. That is big. Like
Yes.
that takes him out of play. It makes the whole Dallas situation murky. So now, like all of a sudden, the earlier plays, we still have the Memphis news, but the Dallas news just made those plays look worse, which can happen when you wait for late news. So this is a good example of like the grass isn't always greener just waiting, because PJ Washington's in, but he almost makes the whole front court out of play, except if Moses Brown is starting. At least in my mind, because he's a usage hog when he's out there, but he's not going to play full minutes. Still like Kyrie, but not as much. Yeah, Dallas as a whole is in a good spot, but there isn't like one guy I love.
I'm actually still comfortable with Kyrie. I just don't think they can.
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him. It's just a matter of, do I like him more than like Maxey and Dame, two guys right in this price point? I might.
Sure.
I think he might be the best option in that range. I would have liked him a little bit more if PJ were out. On the flip side, PJ being in just makes their offense better as a whole. Maybe it helps Kyrie. I do think that you're, buying high Kyrie stock right now with those stocks that he's put up recently, but Dallas needs wins. This game should be competitive. I'm with you. I think Kyrie might be the best option in that group. I just don't think there's a lot separating them. Throw Steph Curry in there too.
Yeah, that's a fair call out there for Steph. All right.
And I do think a lot of people will be like, casual, like Steph just went off. I don't want to play him here. But man, like at 8,900 without Butler off, even before that 57-point game or whatever he had, he was playing really good basketball, putting up monster fantasy scores for his price. So like maybe we're looking past Steph a little bit. And to be perfectly honest, in the tools, he grades out higher than Kyrie, Maxey, or Dame. Projects for like, they all project for almost the same amount of fantasy points, but the tools like Curry the best, which is saying something.
All right. I am boosting Kyrie. I am to get him because the ROI. I'm boosting Curry and I'm boosting Giannis. I also have, dear God, 80% Moses Brown. Now there's one game for an hour, so I've got time to massage this, figure out what I'm gonna do.
Thing is, so I don't mean to cut you off, but the thing is with Moses Brown, at least before, and we still are showing this, like he has a 42% chance of being optimal, only 13% ownership. Anyone like that, the Sims are just going to absolutely jam into as many lineups as they can. I would be shocked if the discrepancy is really that big. Either his ownership is going to come up because the field isn't going to let a 42% optimal guy go in at 13%, or his optimal percentage is going to come down if he's not starting. Those will balance out. So just something to note, because you don't see this often, but it's not going to turn out where he actually is 43% chance optimal and only 14% or 13% owned.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's run our other one. Just looking to see if there's any additional news. Um, Other than Washington on the minutes limit, that is it. Make sure I entered the right contests. Are you doing multiple lineups tonight?
Not just one. These Saturday slates are always tricky. We're doing the show. News is flying in all over.
Your wife has a weekend.
Yeah, 2-year-old. Like, it's just a lot.
She's saying, "Hey, don't you watch sports for your job every day of the week?"
Well, she wants to watch basketball.
Does you think she'll like baseball?
Yeah, I mean, because she already asked for a little bit. It's funny, like maybe 6 months ago, she was maybe just turned 2. She likes this. It's a show called Blippy. It's like this guy, you've probably never heard of it, but it's like a kid's thing. And on one of the shows, he was playing basketball with Andre Drummond. So for like the past 6, 8 months, whenever I put on basketball, she always says Andre Drummond or whatever, however she says it. It's real cute.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm out of the cartoon game here. All right,
It's not a cartoon, but you wouldn't ever be in this game anyways. And trust me,
the
I wish I
children's
wasn't in
show.
it.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, this child get a good laugh out of this. When I first moved out to Virginia, I lived for about 8 months in the basement of my buddy's McMansion. The basement was bigger than my condo in Seattle. And they had 2 children, and both the husband and wife, they traveled a lot internationally and domestically. So a lot of times I would be taking care of the kids until the nanny got there. So I learned I had a pink car seat in my car, and my boss didn't believe me. He's like, and then one day he made me take him or he asked me if I could take him to pick up his car at the mechanics. And he gets in my car and he sees a pink car seat in there. He's like, "Why do you have?" And I said, "When I said I'm taking care of the kid, I'm actually taking care of 2 little toddlers."
That's hilarious.
They are a sophomore in college and a freshman in college now. So a long time.
So way back.
Way back. But I was going to say Nina on Sprouts, the Sprout channel. I don't know if
it's probably something similar. Like it's just kid songs and
whatever. Pretty much. Yeah, they're all the same except Caillou. Caillou was evil. They don't still have Caillou, do they?
I think they do. I think it's a cartoon though, right?
Yeah, it's a cartoon. All it does is teaches kids how to whine. That kid just whines.
Yeah.
All right. 5 minutes to go. Now we can panic. Let's see what else. Who do you think you don't have enough of? And you got an hour to change. So let's talk about who you're putting in your lineup. You're going to have Giannis, I'm guessing. Are you working in Giannis and Irving? Or are you trying to go with Curry? Because I know you're putting in one of those guards with Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, you just have so much salary with value galore, in my opinion. I do the Memphis news is so big because for me, the guards are tough because if you get like Bane and Ja out, I think Kennard and Pippen are both locks at their price points. If you get Ja out and Bane and Kennard in, I think Bane, Kennard, and Pippen are all really good plays. If you get Bane out and Ja in, I think Ja becomes a really good play. So like the Memphis news is big. They do play a lot of bodies, but Morant and Bane, 2 of their 3 best players pretty clearly. So the other guy we didn't talk too much about, I know you mentioned him, I didn't really, is Jaren Jackson, who already right now looks like one of the best plays on the slate, projecting for over 41 fantasy points at 7,700. I mean, he's just going to look that much better if you get one or multiple guys out for Memphis. So I think he's my second priority with Giannis, 2 power forward centers. So the guy that I'm most worried about not getting to is going to be Şengün because, all of a sudden you're throwing in 18.5 combined salary for Giannis and Jackson at power forward center. Not really going to be able to fit Şengün at 87. Rather play one of the guards. So he's the guy I'm most scared not to play.
Yes. All right. Bumping same thing. You're right on this ROI thing. It doesn't Curry and Irving. You got to bump. It likes Giannis and it loves Moses Brown.
It loves Moses Brown.
Yeah. So we got an hour to figure that part out. So I'm gonna get these uploaded. I see someone in chat asking for best plays at every position. I think Killian Hayes is your point guard of choice on the low end. Kyrie Irving on the high end. Your differentiation play would be De'Aaron Fox. If we go over to shooting guard, it's going to end up being somebody from Memphis, most likely. I wouldn't burn that on the first game. If you go to small forward, that's probably also going to end up being somebody from Memphis. Power forward is going to be Giannis. Center, Moses Brown is going to be a huge helping here. But I think you start looking at Sabonis, Şengün. I'm willing to forego Jaren Duren. Probably Jalen Duren in the first one. Drinking basketball or baseball on the mind there. Jalen Duren in that first one. There we go. Cryu. Deflos, as we call him, Cryu. Yeah, this guy's just a little. All right, 2 minutes to go. I got my lineups uploaded here. PJ is unplayable. Yeah, the upside's going to have to be he's going to have to drop like 6 3-pointers. He can.
Unplayable on a slate, like, I don't want to say he's like unplayable if you're 150 maxing, but he's definitely unplayable if you're playing like 1 to 3 lineups. Like, he's too expensive for limited minutes when we've got other very good plays. I mean, we already talked about Giannis and Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson specifically right in his price range. Paul George, who's his price exactly.
Yeah, and for those wondering, we just got an ownership update. Washington is 5% on FanDuel, 1.3% on DraftKings. So that would qualify as unplayable. You're not really fading him if the whole field is fading him.
Right. The only thing I'll say is, like, it is a small enough slate where I go back to Embiid's first game back. I know I was doing the show with Lindquist that night, and Embiid was coming in so low owned because he was projected to play around 30 minutes. Well, he ended up playing 36 minutes and smashing. The difference is, like, it's still PJ Washington isn't Embiid, and like I'm still going to take Kidd at his word, even though I don't necessarily want to believe him. I mean, that's all we can go off of.
All right, one more time for the link join here, dropping that into chat. We've got 2 new operators that are on that. We've got Fanatics and we have Chalkboard. You sign up through our links. You'll see the instructions on the page. We need to see your welcome email. We need to see a screenshot of your first pick'em card or sports wager that settles. That, with your welcome email, gets forwarded to us at support@stokastic.com. And that, if you check the boxes, will get you 30 days of a single sport sims package, your choice. Baseball right around the corner, NBA in action now. Check that out. I'm betting most of you guys don't have Chalkboard. It's a pick'em app that is out there. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but they turn on your push notifications for it because they do 3 or 4 discounted player projections every day. All right. We're at lock, Matt. Cha-ching. Humboldt, see you at the bottom. Let's hope not. Let's turn that frown upside down. Debo traded. This is good. This is good. All right. We're going to slide on out of here because I'd like to have some dinner. So we're leaving. You guys. Yeah. Very, very nice. Things are going to be done early today. I probably shouldn't have had coffee since I'm not planning on staying up late because basketball is going to be over around 10:30, 11. So, but
there's college basketball though.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, guys, follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMac DFS. Of course, it is Stokastic _COM. With that, gamers, hit the like button and good luck.